So, guys, this is the first live edition of the new variation of my podcast. It was called Your Progress is Our Passion. It is now called Master the Mind, Master Anything, and we are focusing a lot more on mindset and progression and general improvement, self-mastery along those sorts of lines. With that in mind, my first live guest is Mr. Troy Martin, who has been through all sorts of technological hellfire and brimstone in order to get here. We've both been kicked out of Facebook a couple of times. We both had to restart phones, and I have left at least 6 people bored listening to me go do 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 whilst waiting for a guest about 15 times. So thank you to everyone that's watched so far for their patience. And thank you to everyone who's currently watching already. This will be up on the podcast in a few weeks, so everyone that's watching on Facebook Live gets the preview advanced version of it. Ooh. My guest is Mr. Troy Martin. He's Southern, but we'll let him off for that. And he's going to educate and entertain us at the same time in his own special blend. So, Troy, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. So I'm Troy Martin. I am a fitness and nutrition coach. I also do some online nutrition coaching with Ben Coomber on his Fat Loss for Life program. My main area of expertise on the fitness side of things is corrective exercise, posture improvement, injury rehab, that kind of thing, and I have a particularly special interest in back pain improvement, having just recently launched an online program called the Back Pain Solution, and having had many years of various levels of back pain and injuries and so forth. And people might be wondering how that ties into self-development, but I think there's kind of, quite a lot of tie-ins there. So there's, in relation to sort of back pain, there are, the mindset side of things play a big role, and the emotional side of things plays a big role in pain, how you experience pain and so forth. And, I 100% believe that your health, your fitness, your nutrition, your exercise are huge elements of your personal and self-development, that people should be approaching their health, the whole gamut of exercise, nutrition, mindset, everything, as a form of self-development in much the same way as you would approach, business development.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, one thing that I'd say immediately with the link between sort of pain and the mindset really is the whole mindset that things are supposed to hurt and what hurts, and like, oh, I've got back pain. And it's like, oh yeah, oh well, I've just got to have to put up with that now. People generally tend to actually live with that type of pain and think it's kind of normal. They think it's a normal result of, say, I deadlifted heavy, or I did a lot of squatting, or maybe I've all this type of stuff. So, and people just think that pain is associated to almost to progress. The whole, the no pain, no gain idea, and wearing their pain as a badge of honor. So is that something that you come across?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I touched on that when I spoke at the Body Top Nutrition, the BTN Academy Nutrition, since they rebranded. So at the BTN Academy conference, should I say, and I touched on that about the no pain, no gain, and the kind of fat shaming and fit shaming sort of memes that you get. Now, when it comes to back pain, it's interesting because I having the research that I've done an extensive amount of scientific research. I've trawled through, reams and reams of scientific literature. I've read loads of the works of Stu McGill, who's one of the world's leading authority on back biomechanics. And there's something that he has in his book, Back Mechanic, which I have found with the people that I work with as well, is that there's kind of 2 types of mindset, 2 types of personality when it comes to chronic pain. You have like an A type and a B type. Now, this is spectrum, so it's not as black and white as that, but you have people that are very active, very fit, always on the go. They're in a lot of pain, and they think their solution to that pain is to keep exercising, to ignore the pain, bash through it. It'll eventually get better. If I just ignore it, it will get better. And it never does. And then you've got the other side, the B-type personality, who don't do any exercise. And the reason they're in pain is because they need to do more.
Yeah.
So the A-type need to take their foot off the pedal, need to accept that there's a problem, you know, not let that problem, you know, get them down, take the foot off the pedal, step away from it, let things calm down, and then reintroduce the, you know, exercise and everything else gradually. Whereas the B-type personality needs to do the opposite. They need to accept that their lifestyle has caused their pain, is keeping them in pain, and that they need to get off their arse and do some more exercise and move more, but move properly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge connection between sort of chronic pain and mindset and things like depression and anxiety. It's like these things really do tie into each other to the point of which almost, and particularly stress, like we can, as woo-woo as it may sound, we physically hold stress in places in our body, the sort of mid-upper traps, and for example, the neck, a lot of these places where people actually stay tense through a lot of their time and their mobility is limited. But ultimately that then sort of, they're tense because they're stressed, and then they're stressed because they're tense. So there's a very sort of bi-directional link there for sure.
Yeah.
I would love, if you could, to while we talk of sort of a little bit about personal development, I would love for you to share the story on how you ended up being a coach for BTN, because I think this is absolutely class, and I think it's definitely one for all the internet trolls out there.
Okay, fair enough. Well, so I started following BTN. I don't know, a number of years ago. I actually met one of the guys who worked with Ben, who's no longer part of that. He's moved on to new pastures since. But I met him at a sports nutrition seminar, and he introduced me to Body Type Nutrition, Ben Coomer. I started following him, and then I did the Body Type Nutrition Academy, and Ben gave me the job. You know, I passed with flying colours. I was apparently top of the class, or one of the top 2 or 3 that year. And Ben got in touch and asked me if I wanted to work with him. And I'm utterly convinced that the reason Ben gave me a job was so that I would stop trolling him on social media and correcting all his spelling mistakes. I wasn't a dick about it. I'm not one of these people that, you know, spends all his spare time on the internet telling everyone they're wrong, because, you know, that's just nonsense. If you're the sort of person that does that, then, you know, you're a bit of a dick, and you need to look at yourself in the mirror. But I am a little bit of a grammar Nazi, and you know, let's be fair to Ben. Sometimes his grammar leaves a little to be desired, and I tell him that on a regular basis. And I think, you know, as I say, I think he just was like, how can I stop this guy from correcting my spellings and my grammar? I know, I'll put him on the payroll. And that is, you know, and it worked.
Your silence has been bought.
Yeah, and he was quite smart about it as well, because he then put me in charge of doing writing most of the social media content for Body Type Nutrition, and then probably took great pleasure in pointing out any of my typos.
Yeah, which I'm sure there was.
And then I was the one that had to deal with the trolls. Yeah,
fair enough. So sort of moving back onto the back pain side of things, when we kind of talked offline a few days ago, you were saying about the idea of the nocebo. That might be a phrase that practically no one actually understands. So would you like to kind of elaborate on what that is and sort of how it relates to this, and kind of maybe even talk about it as a broader term as well?
Yeah, sure. So most people know what a placebo is.
Yep.
So, you know, in terms of medicine, like you go to your doctor, you say, doctor, I've got these headaches. Doctor says, take this pill, it'll take your pain away. What you don't know is that it's a sugar pill with no medicine in it whatsoever. But the doctor said, if you take this, it will take your pain away. You take the pill, miraculously, your pain goes away. That's a placebo. Placebo comes from the Latin for I shall please. So the opposite to placebo is a nocebo.
I'm a people pleaser.
So you're an obliger, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not a people pleaser, I'm an obliger. I can give tough love where necessary. But yeah, anyway, sorry for interrupting you. That was totally unobliging of me.
That's all right. That's all right.
So placebo is I shall please. Carry on.
Yeah, so the opposite of placebo is nocebo, which in Latin it refers to I shall harm.
Okay.
So it's the polar opposite. So this is the intrinsic damage and harm that you do to yourself with your thoughts. So in terms of pain, a good example of a nocebo is you go to your doctor, I've got pain, this pain in my back. And then the doctor says, well, you're not getting any younger. You better stop exercising. That's not doing you any good. Stop running uphill. Stop lifting heavy things. You're asking for trouble. The doctor will probably tell you you've got degenerative disc disease. I mean, there's no such thing as degenerative disc disease. You do have age-related degeneration in your discs, but as Stu McGill says, your nan has got age-related degeneration in her face, but you don't tell her she's got degenerative face disease. She's just got wrinkles. So the nocebo is this insertion of this negative, pessimistic expectation, and when it comes to pain, that often manifests itself as what's clinically termed pain catastrophizing. And there's a lot of different schools of thought on this. So one of the areas that I found quite interesting when I was doing my research is the Neuro Matrix theory, which is a psychological term. And so the Neuro Matrix there's a diagram, and it's the way it's depicted in the research is you've got this spinning sphere in the middle, and then you've got these inputs that go into the spinning sphere, which are like your cognitive, emotional, sensory inputs, and they spin around inside the sphere and they get spat out the other side, and these are your outputs, which become your pain, your motor controls, your stress, your emotion, and then as you said about like depression, that ties in very heavily with depression, and then it's almost a little bit of a chicken or egg scenario. What came first, the pain or the depression?
Yeah.
Or was it always there, or and a lot of people will say, well, I'm quite positive about it. I know I have pain, and I don't wake up thinking, oh, I'm in pain, I'm going to be in pain, this is going to hurt. But it's not a conscious thing. It's just it's conscious level. It's more of a neurological, almost like part of your central nervous system. So I don't want to go down the route of talking about energy, but energy is in that vibrational sense. But there's more going on intrinsically in the body, in that physiological unit, and the mind, and the signals that are being the electro signals that are being produced in your mind, in that deep subconscious level, are having an effect that is culminating in a physiological or perceived physiological response, which is your chronic pain.
Right. Well, I mean, if you want to steer it away from the more woo-woo version of it, which I know you're always keen to do, even though I'm keen to steer it to the grey area in the middle. But as ultimately, pain is another, or the removal or dealing of pain is another way that your body is trying to return itself to homeostasis. And so therefore, it is a stress whether you think about it as a stress or not. So your body, if your body's trying to, if it's trying to adapt to adverse temperature, it is a stress. If it's trying to adapt to too much or too little food, it is a stress. If it is trying to adapt to its level of pain and return itself to homeostasis, it's a stress. If you've got that going on while you've still got the other mental stresses, the physical stresses, the exogenous kind of toxins and things that are all multiple things in which your body's trying to deal with, then in the similar way to kind of how mental stress like piles up and starts overworking your sort of HPA axis again, it's like this is another it's another contributing factor to that. So like a lot of things with high stress, and then depression, anxiety and whatnot are symptomatic of high levels of stress, whether that is just mental stress, what we consider to be, we think that depression is more of a mental stress, but no, physical stress, like any sort of inflammation and things like that, contribute into that a lot. Whether you feel stressed about it or not, there is around certain joints, there's going to be inflammation, there's going to be things that your body's trying to deal with. So it's all very scientific.
It is. It's interesting because earlier on, much earlier in this conversation, you mentioned something about holding stress in areas of your body.
Yeah.
There are some. If you speak to some body workers like physiotherapists and massage therapists, there's a deep trigger point release technique that some of them use that they claim, and I can't give you any scientific citations for this, but they claim that when people that hold tension and pain in a certain part of the body, when they do this release technique and it releases the tension, this person has an emotional breakdown because they're releasing all that pent up emotion that's kind of locked into that point of muscular tension in the body.
Yeah.
Now, what was that emotion and that emotional pain and stress the cause of the physical tension, or was the physical tension the cause of the emotional pain? Who knows? But it is an interesting area, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, from an anecdotal point of view, I do yoga once a week, and that certainly works on my mental health wonderfully. And I remember historically, like whenever, like I don't tend to hold poses for long periods of time. Like now, I do more relaxation. I'm doing yoga for the specific reason of relaxation. But historically, when I would sit in a hip opening pose for a long period of time, it would make me want to cry, and not from pain, not like, oh my God, I'm like, this is horrible. But it would release certain emotions, certain things in yoga. Again, from an anecdotal point of view, I've experienced emotions out of yoga that just literally come from nowhere. And that's kind of like, it's really, to me, it's a big testimony to the whole like bi-directional link between our body and our mind. I think it might have been in the one I put up yesterday. It's either in the one I put up yesterday or the one I'm putting up tomorrow. I can't remember now. Is when someone feels depressed, when they feel depressed, basically, they make themselves small. They kind of curl into a ball and they get under a blanket and they put the lights up and all the rest of it, and they want to make themselves as small as humanly possible. Then when, say, for example, you go into your favorite band in concert and they play an absolute belter of a song, your favorite song comes on, you throw yourself up, your arms are up in the air, you make yourself open, you make yourself wide, and you make yourself big. Now, the argument is always that, well, you're doing those things because you feel that way. And it's like, well, actually, is it not possible that you're also feeling that way because you're doing those things? The way that you're actually moving and the way that the way you're holding your body actually makes you physically feel certain ways.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's like muscle memory, isn't it? So, you talked about earlier, like with posture, people get a lot of tension in the upper traps, and they have this sort of posture. If I turn side on, you get this kind of Mr. Burns kind of posture. I see that a lot in modern day. Now, if that's the way you hold yourself on a daily basis as you go through life, you look at somebody who's walking around like that, they look like they're in pain, they look like they're sad, they look like they're anxious or stressed or angry. And if that's your normal posture on a daily basis, you're giving those signals to your mind that you're under threat, that you're experiencing something that's causing either pain, sadness, threat, anxiety, fear, or all of those things. And then your body reacts to that by producing the fight or flight hormones, cortisol, etc., to try and fight that off. And so you're constantly inviting biological stress into your body by putting your body under this physical stress of poor posture.
Yeah. And again, like the nocebo that you mentioned earlier, it's like the mere suggestion of it. Yeah. Like, even the one I remember reading in that wonderful publication, Men's Health, back when I was in my 20s, about kind of declining testosterone from the day on the 30th birthday, the testosterone police will come into your house and steal half of your testosterone. And it's like, okay, did I as a nocebo feel less of a man because of that? It's like when I'm walking around with a posture of someone who maybe feels small and feels shy, am I feeling more of those effects because of that? I think it's kind of fascinating that, like, all of these different things in terms of our idea about it actually help fulfill the prophecy, essentially help fulfill the thing that we're actually in fear of getting.
Was there a question there? I got a bit of interference. I missed the last bit. Okay.
It was a statement.
It was a statement. Okay. I got a little bit of lag on the feed there, so I missed a little bit of that.
Right. Well, I will come in with a question. Has there been sort of, in fact, actually, I'll ask this question because Stephen's watching right now. So It's like, I know you've worked with Mr. H in the past and stuff. And I think I remember you shared something on your feed the other day of kind of like back when I was an angry man. Is that something that you're willing to talk about, your progress from being an angry man to the Buddhist monk that you are now?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really been an angry man. Like anyone else in life, things, you react to things. You see stuff, you react to it, you get angry, you get emotional about it. Just in the last few years, maybe it's an age-related thing, maybe it's part of my own journey of self-development. I have worked quite hard on developing a more, the whole mindfulness thing and being more mindful in my approach to life, more present in the moment and what have you. So it's a lot easier to let these things go. The post you're alluding to was tongue in cheek, but I did read it. I did literally read it to myself and was like, wow, I wouldn't even have had the energy to write that these days. I think it's just, it's very easy to personalize things and make stuff about you. And what I've come to realize with people, particularly these days, with the way the internet is, everybody's offended by everything all the time. Everyone's got an opinion about something, everybody's angry about something, and that doesn't help anyone. It's a list of all the people who are expressing this stuff online. And I think for myself, I've just learned to detach myself from that. Like, if I can't physically change that thing, then am I wasting my time by writing about it, by complaining about it? Unless I'm actually going to physically do something that's going to generate some level of change or raise some form of awareness, then you're better off just pushing it to one side and taking meaningful action in an area that you can affect.
Absolutely.
So I think, yeah, and it's just so I don't walk around in a perpetual state of outrage at teenagers playing loud music on trains anymore.
Fair enough. I think I still do. But
I think everyone does.
It's down to
when did headphones become unfashionable?
I don't know. Like, I think it's a return to the ghetto blaster of the 80s. Technically, we should blame the mobile phone companies, because ultimately they're the ones that created speakers that were loud enough to produce music. So it's like, we'll blame them. But okay, there's a couple of questions that I'm still tying over from the old podcast, just in case anyone's on that was listening to that. And there were my two favorite questions at the time, so I'm going to continue using them. And you can go in any direction you want with this. It doesn't have to be mindset related or even in something that it doesn't have to be even fitness related or anything like that. It can be however you want it to be. Right. The first question is, what is the worst piece of advice you see people taking too much or people giving too much?
That's a tough one. The worst piece of advice. There's so much. It's like sensory overload. There's so much bullshit out there at the moment that it seems like every time I turn on the telly, open up a magazine, a newspaper or a book, or go on social media, there's just terrible advice everywhere.
Okay, so what would be, if you had to pick just one, what is that the worst, the most terrible, what is the biggest offender?
I just because it's kind of at the forefront of my mind at the moment, and it's been talked about a lot in the last week or so since that BBC programme. I'm just going to go with the whole carbs thing. Carbs aren't making people fat. Too many carbs, too much food, not enough activity is what's making people fat. The lifestyle is what makes somebody fat, whether you're eating carbs or not. It's the overall everything that contributes to that, putting you into that chronic energy imbalance.
Yeah.
So sorry, bit of a boring answer,
no,
but I guess that's the one that kind of at the forefront of my mind at the moment.
I think it's an answer that can't be said enough, to be honest. Which I hope doesn't automatically lead you into the answer to the next question, because the follow-up question to that is, what's the best piece of advice that people aren't hearing enough?
The best piece of advice that people aren't hearing enough is act, don't react.
I like it.
Because I remember I used to play American football. When I was in my teens, I used to play American football, full contact. And my coach used to get very frustrated with me because I didn't react to the situation, because I'm a questioner. So I'd stand there and analyse everything that's going on and then try and make the correct decision. And he'd be like, don't react, don't think, react. That was what he would say. Don't think, react. And I think too many people are doing that these days, and they need to just stop, take a breath, find that gap, and then just go, fuck it, whatever, and move on.
Yeah. No, it's really good advice, because we can't really truly multitask. We can't be proactive and reactive at the same time. So if someone wants to do that sort of that deep work, or do their best, kind of come up with their best ideas, it needs to be done from a place of proactivity. Like, I'm actually planning to do this, and therefore I'm going to work through this problem, as opposed to, oh, that fire needs putting out, I'll go and do that. That fire needs putting out, I'll go and do that. And all day. And because of social media, we get into a whole reactive state. As soon as we wake up, we see our notifications, and then we decide whether or not those are good notifications or bad notifications, but we respond to them. And then we're doing that right the way through until the end of the day, and there's not enough. I know that when I actually schedule in time for proactivity. And when I do that, I get a lot of better work done in a smaller amount of time. So, I'm not saying that nothing good ever comes from reactivity. It does. But if you want to, get that real, true proactive work out, it's not going to happen in the same time. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
That I would like to add to I missed the last bit. Sorry.
To the entire conversation. Anything anything burning on the top of your brain that I've not asked the question, to release it?
No, but I think you know what I'm going to say, because I finished on this point at the conference, and I know you appreciated the point. If there's any coaches watching, well, this goes to anyone who lives their life online, who does social media. If you're a coach and you're trying to market yourself online, just don't be a dick. be a nice person. Be compassionate. We were talking about action and reaction. Stop reacting to everything you see and everything you hear time, because you don't know that person's backstory, and you react to them in a negative way, that might send them over the edge. If you're seeing stuff online that you don't like, and you want to tell everyone that they're wrong, and for whatever reason you think it's really important to be seen to be right all the time, don't, because nobody cares, and you're just being a dick. So don't be a dick.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Because we're both going through our personal accounts right now, from a business perspective, from your actual Facebook page and things like that, Instagram, is there any of the links on them that you'd like to kind of mention here? Where would you be your preferred source for people to go?
Okay, I'm TM Fitness everywhere, so that's TM for Troy Martin. So pretty much TM Fitness everywhere. Facebook's the best place to find me. Don't look for Troy Martin and try and send me a friend's invite, because if I don't know who you are, I won't accept it. Find the TM Fitness page and give that a like, and there's plenty of information on there, and you can pretty much find everything else on there. I am on Instagram. I'm shit on Instagram, and I don't really like Instagram. I have kind of a hate relationship with it. I only use it for business purposes. I'm on Twitter, again, don't really use it properly. So, and YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel, got loads of exercises, loads of useful videos on there, but Facebook's the place to find me, really.
Awesome, cool. And for once, and I always forget to do this bit because I forget that obviously that some of your followers and your fans and things like that will actually be watching this and they haven't got a clue who I am. I always forget this bit. Hi, I'm Dave, and I focus mainly on mindset. And if you would want to follow me, I would have you go to my mindset page, which is facebook.com/mindset by Dave. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, which I actually do love, I have a love relationship with it. It's CoFitPT, so CoFitPT. And if you are just following from Troy stuff, I would love to hear from you. And we've got loads of other cool content with people who are almost as cool as Troy.
Right. I was going to say I'd try, but I don't, because obviously it wouldn't be cool to try. It's got to be effortless, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think you've got that one. You've got that one down to a T. You wore flip-flops at the BTN conference.
Too kind.
And I was like, I travelled down to London the day before. I had one bag with me that I had to carry around in London the whole day before. And even though I'm a size bloody 13, the only thing I obsessed over was that I needed to have a nice pair of shoes. So there you go. Yep, it's ridiculous, I know. But right, well, thank you very much for joining me, Troy. It's been absolutely awesome, even if we did
Thank you very much for having me on.
You're welcome. Even if we got off to a very bad technical start. Thank you, everyone that's watched. We've had actually a ton. There's been sort of conversations and all sorts going on in the comments, and I didn't know how to turn them off, so I tried not to be too distracted by them. Thank you, everyone who's watched and commented and stuff. This will be going on to my mindset page at some point in about probably 3 weeks or so, and the podcast in about 3 weeks, but this version will still be viewable through my personal page for the foreseeable future. So yeah, thanks again. Cool. And yeah, Troy, I will catch you soon, and thanks everyone else for watching.